Hi everybody, it's Kathy from Huckleberry Herbs and Art. I hope you're having a great day. This card was made using the Heartfelt Creations Singing in the Rain stamp sets. I love this collection. It's so cute, the boots and the flowers and the raindrops. It just beckoned for me to do something with it. I actually used two stamp sets for this, Raindrop Sentiments and Rain Boots and Blossoms. I'm not going to show the coloring process, but they were done with Dr. P.H. Martin's inks. There are some of the steps in here to create this card, which the flowers are very flat and the cloud is lifted up on foam and little foam under the boots. I'm also using these A2 cards that come in this little box of 50, and although I'm going to use the sentiments that are in the stamp sets, I chose a different sentiment for the front of the card, which I did not have a stamp for. So I just went to Word, chose a font, printed it out on cardstock, and now I'm just cutting in the shape of clouds the sentiment to put it on the front. I probably have a cloud somewhere in my collection, but sometimes it's nice to just do things the old-fashioned way and take a pair of scissors and make a cloud. So after I finish cutting them out, I'm going to want a little bit of color on this cute saying, April showers bring May flowers. So I use the Distress Oxide inks, and this is Salty Ocean, and the Heartfelt Creations little dauber set there. Love that thing because it doesn't take up any room on my desk, and the triangle shape of it gets into corners that I normally can't get into, and I just keep one of each of the color families sitting there ready to go. I'm bringing a little bit of the blue in towards the center of the cloud, and now I'm just going to use the cloud to figure out where I want to put my raindrops. I love my stamp pad, my Tim Holtz Tonic Studio stamp helper here. This is a great tool, and I'm going to place my drops where I think they will look like they're coming out of the cloud, and carefully place my magnets. Don't let these magnets touch each other. Keep them at the opposite corners. Now once I pick up the stamp, I'm going to ink it up and put my first set of raindrops on the paper. You can see I've already been at this a while because there's a little ink, and I learned that placing the card underneath keeps me from having to use the alcohol every time I stamp to clean it up, which it cleans up really easily. And this stays on ink, so it does not just wipe up with any old thing. You really do need to wipe it with alcohol, but the stamp pad worked. It worked great cleaning it up. So I'm getting my first set of raindrops on here, and you can see it goes over the edge onto the white cardstock. So that's why I chose to just cover up the board. And this is the second set of raindrops that I'm placing right next to them. And I'm not being too picky about where they're going. You know, raindrops aren't too picky about where they go. So just getting it all inked up and ready to put my second set onto this little piece of cardstock. This is actually a piece of the paper that comes with the Heartfelt Creations pads. Chose this light lime green background. I thought that would be good for the scene that I was setting, and there I am moving the magnets away from each other before they touch each other, and I regret it. Now I'm going to come back, open up the inside of the card, and hope all is well is the sentiment I have taken from the stamp set. I'm placing it somewhat in the middle, and when you're doing something like this, if you want to do a scrap paper just to make sure that it's straight because they aren't clear and see-through, you could do that to be sure that you're straight, but I'm going for it. I'm inking this up, and I'm just going to take care of this rest of the stamping while I have the stamp pad out. So it turned out pretty well, centered, somewhat straight, good enough for me. And I thought hope all is well would be a nice sentiment to put inside. I pictured these cards going to somebody, maybe a friend who said that they were having a kind of sad day or something. Now, Heartfelt Creations has a great angel policy. If you're going to sell a lot of your cards, you should check out their site and be sure before you do so. But they actually have these stamps all ready to go so that if you are going to sell them, and you can comply with the angel policy. So I'm at the back of the card now, putting the Heartfelt Creations stamp, and it leaves a place underneath at the bottom of the stamp for you to put your name. It says created by. And here are all of the papers glued onto the cards with the raindrops ready to go. Now, Heartfelt Creations dies work great, but sometimes when I'm making a lot of cards and there's a lot of tiny things and I'm just not in the mood, I'll use my Brother Scan and Cut to cut out the images when they're in abundance. And these cut out beautifully. Here they are all ready to go and to be placed on. And I love all the colors and shapes. I really don't have two boots that are the same, but I'm only going to use one on most of them. Now here I'm just cutting a little slice. I couldn't find my X-Acto knife, so forgive me for this. In the top part of the boot where the hole is, so that I can create an opening to put the flowers. Now I chose not to have much dimension in my flowers because I did want them to lie somewhat flat in an envelope, but I put a bit of dimension into the boot before I started to add the flowers into that little slice that I had created. So I'm just going to set up all my flowers in somewhat of an organized fashion. A nice little bouquet and a couple of each of the flowers that I had prepared ahead of time. I love those little white May flowers there. I'm going to put a tiny bit of glue just to stabilize them a little bit while I'm fumbling around with some other things like putting this sticky foam onto the back. And then I'm going to glue the flowers again more solid. Now, if you were going to have more dimension and lift your flowers up, you probably wouldn't go through this process. But as I said, I'm going to want the flowers to lie very flat so that I can just pop them in a little A2 envelope and not worry about it. Now I'm ready to place the whole boot and bouquet onto the card, which you can see I've used a little ink to put some blue in the sky and some green below. And I'm just going to feel around and make sure that none of those flowers are sticking up so that they would be torn off, and touch up with my Dries Clear Art Glitter Glue any place that could be torn easily. I'm just going to come back here and add my cloud on some sticky foam tape so there's a little bit of dimension there. And once I get it placed on, I'm pretty much done with this card. By the way, you can see that I forgot to ink before I placed the paper onto the card. So here they are all finished. And I did a couple different versions of them and did use a different sentiment from the stamp sets itself on at least one. I didn't mind that my double boot one had two different boots. It kind of fits my style, I guess. I think I'm going to put a little woodsy critter bird up on the top of that cloud in that white version to fill in the space. And you can see I came back here and I put a little leaf at the bottom of that. So they're all similar but very different as well. And just goes to show you that you can do quite a few different things with the same stamps and the same colors and somewhat the same sentiments. So there's my pink and purple striped boots version. And there you go. You can see how the edge was inked after I got the cardstock on. A happy mistake because I enjoyed the fact that the edges were not stark white like the one that I showed you just a moment ago when I pointed towards it. And you really can't see the dimension, but you can feel the dimension, which is neat because when somebody brushes their fingers across the boot, you can tell that it's curved upward, and it's pretty neat. So I hope you enjoyed watching me create these little cards, and maybe it brought a few spring feelings to your moment into your day. I hope so. And if you want any of these things, just hop on over to HuckleberryHerbs.com and you can find all the Heartfelt Creations stuff and the Distress Oxide inks and the cardstocks and all those things. At any rate, I enjoyed making these. I had a fun time, and I now have a few little cards that I can mail out to some friends. And till next time, everybody, this is Kathy from Huckleberry Herbs and Art. God bless.